The identity as the interface and the end of an ego-centered self. This is what's happening on a global level. System awareness, reduced trauma, neutral presence, and post-identity coherence. Kind of a big deal. You're kind of a big deal. Something subtle has happened, and most people don't have the language for it yet. You're not disappearing, you're not disassociating, and you're not losing yourself. What is dissolving is the version of your identity that required constant emotional upkeeping. For a long time, identity was built around reaction. Who you were depended on how you felt. Really, I'm gonna be nice. You had to go on a soul retrieval. You had to build a solar embryo. Don't get lost in the sound field. It was a big deal. Also, what you believed depended on what hurt, and what mattered depended on what you defended. The self was a story you had to keep narrating. And that was functional when survival required signaling pain, loyalty, and belonging. But the system has changed. In this current field, identity no longer functions as a center, Santa. It's functioning as an interface, more free, lighter. You're not here to be the story, you're here to route information. Big stepper. This is why many of you feel calmer, but yet harder to label. Less dramatic, but more precise. Less emotional, but more present. You're not numb. You're efficient, and you look good on your throne. The ego-centered self needed friction to stay alive. It needed conflict. It needed validation. It needed contrast. Without stimulation, it panicked. But interface-based identity doesn't need reinforcements. It updates automatically based on context. You don't ask, who am I in this room? Because your system already knows. It's more like asking, what is required here? And then you move accordingly without any type of internal debate. Tell me I'm lying, and doesn't it feel good? This could be very unsettling at first. I know it was for me. Peace, neutrality. You might notice you don't explain yourself as much. You don't feel pulled into emotional loops. You don't personalize things the way you used to. Old versions of you would have reacted. This version of you is now registering. Registration is not detachment, it is accuracy. Drama collapses when identity is no longer anchored to emotion. Guilt dissolves when you stop mistaking intensity for meaning. Confusion will fade when you stop forcing the coherence through your own personality. This is why many people in this phase feel boring to others, because they're not feeding narratives, they're not amplifying noise, they're not reinforcing old relational contracts. And again, clean systems don't perform, they function one at a time. Identity as an interface means you don't over-identify with roles. You don't cling to self-constructs. You don't defend who you used to be. Oversoul. You adapt without losing your own coherence. This isn't ego death, it's ego reassignment. The ego used to sit center, directing everything, and now it works at the edge. It is translating, it is communicating, it is expressing. Useful, but no longer in charge. The ego is a steward. This is why presence feels different now. More quiet, more neutral, and stable. You do not need to be seen to exist. You do not need to be understood to be aligned, and you don't need intensity to feel. Reality responds to clarity, not performance. If you have felt less reactive, if you felt less emotionally hooked, less interested in proving your identity, that's not a loss, baby. That's an upgrade. You're no longer trying to be someone, you're allowing the system to move through you. And that is where real authority lives now. Ashe, Star Commander, out. Thank you for receiving this transmission, Soul Star Majesties. If your heart is moved to support this mission, come on, support the mission. Love offerings, Ashe. Much gratitude.
Put your arms out front, lean side to side. They gon' be on you when they see you hit that dirty ride. Ain't nobody fucking with my bro from Morningside. He go by Bubba and he hit that death like thunder. Okay, I ain't from Dallas, but I need town boogie. I show my moves.